welcome again. Thanks for joining us. This guy has like a really long bio, so I'm not going to read the whole thing for you. I hope you know who Brian Boggs is. His bio is on our app and on our website, so you can catch up on him. But I will say he's won a ton of awards. Most recently, he received the ISFD, or International Society of Furniture Designers, Innovation and Design Award for his CO armchair. He also won awards, the Good Design Award for the Grand Lily armchair, the sculpted fan back chair, and the CO side chair. He received the International A Design Award for the Suniva outdoor swing. So he's made all kinds of really cool products. He's a legend in the chair and the seating industry and that segment. I do want to share this part because it's very relevant to his session today. Brian Boggs manifests furniture designs that honor the soul of the tree while integrating the human experience. Each piece embodies technical mastery, pushing himself and his talent, Craftsman, to create works of art that transform his clients' lives in their homes and businesses. And his talk today is going to be about those myths of craftsmanship and handmade and all those terms that we use so frequently, and what does that really mean. So I'm very excited to welcome to the stage Brian Boggs.
Thank you, Adria, for that introduction, and thank you all for showing up today. I wasn't sure if I had 1, 3, or 4 people in here, but thanks for coming here. So I flew in here from Asheville, and I don't know if you all know much about Asheville, but it's sort of, it takes a lot of pride in being an art town. There's a lot of creative stuff going on there, and it has been for a long time, and so it's attracted a lot of creatives, and being in that kind of environment has been really fun, supportive, and it's a pretty different than any place else I've lived. This picture here is my 7th shop, I think. But I started out in Kentucky, and when I started really wanting to get into woodworking, I was inspired by James Krenov and then Jenny Alexander, who wrote the book Make a Chair from a Tree. The problem that I had with James Krenov's work wasn't what he was doing, but that I would need $10,000 to start a shop like his, and I had $4. Well, I had 50, but my first shop I started with $50. And the reason that's relevant is not just a woe is me thing, but my transition from a shop that had $50 and actually no walls, it was the backyard. I started out making greenwood chairs the old way. From that to having a shop full of now still pre-1920s equipment, but we actually had a big CNC machine in there last year and moved it out. But I've seen a lot of transitions in my career and kind of watched myself evolve, and in my thinking, in my skills, both of which were important to evolve so that my designs and my relationship to my market evolved. And I wanted to share some of that with you and observations that I have labeled the myth of the self-taught craftsman, the myth of original design, and the myth of the handmade object. And the reason that I think it's important to consider these as myths is because I know the way that I used to think about these was getting in the way of my speed of learning, the development of my designs, and the way that I branded what I did, which impacted my relationship to my clients. And that's pretty much everything. What you're able to do has to be financed by your clients. Otherwise, you're a hobbyist. You're not going to make a living. The reason that I think that this is an important thing to talk about now, and the reason I wanted to talk about this today, is particularly in light of what's going on out there on the floor. The representation of the technology that's available today puts us in a position where we have got to be aware of not what's going on out there, but what's going on in our shop at a different level. We need to understand why we're doing this, we need to understand how to learn as fast as possible because things are changing fast. Not only has CNC advanced a lot, but now with AI in the picture, we stand a risk of being swallowed up if we're not really ramping up our own creativity. When I was starting out, you know, I wasn't joking, I really only had $50 worth of tools. I made about 300 or 400 chairs before I had a tool that plugged into the wall. And the reason that I did this was initially economy, but I realized when I started this that what I was learning was really critical to understanding the material and the history of the craft, the way people did things a long time ago, and understand why, because I wanted, regardless of what direction artistically or technically that I went into, my thought process, my understanding, my foundation would be grounded in the history of the craft and a real knowledge of the material. And even though my work is very different today than it was then, that grounding has been really key to me being able to be clear about what I'm doing and be able to share my vision and mission with my clients. And right now, while that mission vision has changed over the years, right now what our mission vision is that we want to be able to build furniture and provide furniture to our clients that is at a level that it actually inspires them to live intentionally. And that's a big goal. That's a big thing to try to do. But we see it happening all the time in our shop. When people walk in the shop and experience our work, sit in chairs that are more comfortable than they've ever seen for a solid wood chair, there's a shift that happens. We're building things to a standard and from a place in ourselves that people aren't used to seeing. What I mean by the self-taught myth, or the myth of the self-taught craftsman, isn't really that you can't teach yourself. I dropped out of college to teach myself woodworking, and I didn't learn really any of my skill in an institution, and I think that by our definition of a self-taught craftsman, I'm it. But the myth around that is that when we hold that we have been teaching ourselves all this time, I'm 42 years into it, the focus tends to be inward. The learning, though, is coming from something outside. And when we're in a problem-solving mode or trying to design something new or develop fixturing for something, we've got to think about it and learn from what we're looking at, from what we're experiencing in front of us. If we think about that experience as teaching ourselves how to do something, we might get the job done. But there's another way to approach it, and I want to stop for a second and say something I often would say in my classes when I'm teaching woodworking is, don't believe anything I say today. And the reason it's not just a joke, it's because what I'm saying doesn't have to be true to be useful. You know, check it out, think about it, try it out. I think it will be helpful to accelerate your learning, improve your design and creativity, and also help you brand what you're doing, whether you're an individual or have a big company, more honestly and more powerfully. The problem with the myth of the self-taught craftsman is I just don't think it positions us in a place to learn as quickly as we're going to need to be learning from here forward and as our industry evolves. And really, it always was an issue, I think. If you can shift from thinking that you're solving this problem by the way you're thinking about it to imagining that the fixtures, the machines, and the material in front of you are there to teach you. It's a different perspective, but it shifts the energy from something inward or a thinking energy to a listening position. and whether those inanimate objects that you're wrestling with have anything to do with that direction of learning versus teaching yourself. The fact that you're shifting your direction outward and going into a more listening mode, what I've found that does is it softens my mind or opens my mind up more to be more receptive to things that my generative mind would miss. You know, Einstein is quoted to have said, logic is going to get you from A to B, imagination will get you everywhere. And what that shift in perspective or shift in energy does, imagining that this material in front of you is teaching you, changes the way you're going to learn. And I've done that a number of times. The first time I did that, not really thinking quite that clearly about it, I was frustrated with how I was getting my finishes. I was trying to get finishes off the tool edge, off of whether it was spoke shaves, draw knives, hand planes, or whatever. I was supposed to be getting better results, according to James Krenov, than I was getting in my reality. So I said, all right, I don't want to make any more furniture if I can't get past this point. And I didn't know anybody that could teach me. None of my woodworking friends were all that good with hand tools anyway, so they were no help. So what I did is I got what they told me was the nastiest piece of wood you can work with, and that was quilted maple. Has anybody here worked by hand with quilted maple? Well, it can be gnarly, not just because the grain is going in every direction, but it also has, I don't know if it's silica or whatever, but it dulls your tools very quickly, which makes them less effective. So my goal was to get every tool in my shop to be able to cut a finish on quilted maple. And I got my magnifying glass out, I looked at everything as closely as I could, and I spent a week studying everything about that experience that I could. And it's really changed my ability to not just work with wood, but problem solve when I've got a machine that's not giving me the result I want on the wood, or certainly if one of my employees is having an issue getting a really good cut. Because of what I learned about learning in that week of studying what's on my bench, I can pretty quickly address an issue in that. I apply that now in things that are more complicated, whether it's a design scenario or fixing a machine, but I've found that softer approach of just letting information in from what I'm working on has made a huge difference in how quickly I can solve a problem. It's also kind of fun and funny, you know. It's kind of like, and I think what the Buddhists would say, achieving child's mind. You know, you're just like a kid again, and listening and learning, and they learn a lot faster than we do. But it's that softness of the brain or softness of the mind that really allows us to learn at our highest potential. The original design is something that not everybody tries to achieve, and I've had a number of conversations with people about we've got a 4,000 year history as a species making furniture of some kind. I know there's a lot of people that'll say it's already all been done, but only recently have we had the technology that we have. So I would certainly hope that opens up some doors for new possibilities that weren't there 3,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago or 50 years ago. One of the things that I see, or when people talk to me about their design process, it's almost always that they're looking at something, whether it's a book of furniture history, whether it's usually mid-century modern stuff, they're looking back at for inspiration or ideas to build on, and at very best, they'll put their spin on something that's already been done. And to a degree, that's a requirement. In the same way that, if you're going to write a poem, you really need to speak the language of your readers, or you certainly need to write it in your own language, in your own native tongue. You're not going to get, if you're trying to be really inspired and come up with a poem, you're not likely to have a download of a poem in Greek if you're an English speaker. You're going to be speaking in your own language. You can get much better at manipulating the language and much more fluid in your use of the language. And I think that's what some of this equipment out here is doing in our trade. It's giving us greater fluidity with which to manipulate, join, and much more of a much higher speed for getting anything done. But by holding that everything has been done and all we can do is manipulate it, is really cutting ourselves off of our best work today, coming up. My fear is that we will learn on AI for that. And what that will do is retard our creativity even further than we already are. With the technology that we have now, access to material that we have now, access to market that we have now, and the wealth, the worldwide wealth, particularly in this country, this right now should be the golden age of design. Does anybody here feel like right now, 2023, July, is this the golden age of design? I'm not getting a strong yes anywhere. Why? I mean, what's holding us back? It ain't all been done before. Or maybe you don't buy that yet. So, what I enjoy doing in the design process is, one, I think of it as a listening process, kind of like learning is a listening process. So what are you listening to? Or what are you looking at or thinking about? In some ways, I try to, as much as possible, stop thinking, because that's just where, when you're thinking, you're containing the experience within your skull. The mind, on the other hand, doesn't have that physical limitations. A lot of people believe the mind is as expansive as we want it to be. To get into that space, I don't know if I'm tricking myself or I'm thinking about things from a different reality, but I just hold that the universe is there delivering designs for free to anybody that's listening, to everybody that's listening. And this perspective was really validated when I was listening to a TED Talk by Elizabeth Gilbert. Who does not know who Elizabeth Gilbert is? She wrote Eat, Pray, Love and some other really great books. She did a TED Talk on our creative genius, and if you haven't seen that, check it out. It's brilliant, it's fun, it's funny, and she'll say things in that are parallel to what I'm saying, but she's more articulate. And she's a better entertainer. But it's really worth looking at for inspiration on how to access more creative energy, or what she will call our creative genius, which is not something inside of us. The Greeks looked at that as something outside of us. Regardless, if we think about design as a process of being open to the universe's free downloads, that already puts us in a position that was ahead of looking at YouTube, looking at Pinterest, looking at Instagram, or wherever else we were going to go to get our design inspiration. Another thing that I've noticed over the years, that's been my experience about design, is each time I get into I want to make a design improvement, which is, for years, that's all I did. I just made little improvements on my chair designs. And I think it was probably at least 8 years before I made anything that wasn't a chair. And by the way, it's kind of silly to start off with the hardest piece of furniture in the whole thing, but chairs are about the only thing you can have a chance of making profitably with a small toolkit. You can't do that with cabinetry. You've got to have a big shop, big toolkit, sanders, a lot of stuff that plugs into the wall. And chairs were a little bit different. And I came at it from an artist perspective, so that was a much more inviting medium, or at least design category. But what I was noticing as my skills and designs were evolving is that each improvement I made in my skill level or my design thinking, the base of ideas I had to choose with expanded. And what it started to feel like, especially in the last 6 or 7 years, what it's feeling like is that I'm either creating a bigger landing pad because I've created a pattern of listening as a design process. I've got more tricks to put things together with, so designs come in, I can hear or see or conceive of designs that are more complicated and see my way through them. And I've also noticed that certainly in my pattern, and I'm getting better at this as I do more design work, but it's a real challenge to hold in a design process a concept that this design is coming to me. It's not mine. It's a gift. It's coming to me. My job is to just not screw it up because it's already there. I've used the analogy of a midwife, but it's really more like a birth canal that we just don't want to screw the baby up. And the way we screw it up is that we've got this category of ideas we've been looking to launch, and we see this as that's where I put this joint. I'll put this on there. Oh, that new stain I've been wanting to use, I'll put this on there. And that's where the ego comes in and what you're wanting rather than a listening process. And what's happened is by learning how to shift that and get away from that and just, at least in my mind, holding this as a baby that I'm trying to protect and listen to and ask it what it wants to be, my work is getting to be a lot freer. And I actually had some slides put together by our photographer, and I was going to show them to you, but I've decided that's going to be distracting because then you're looking at form instead of, I want you to be thinking just about trying to imagine shifting the way you look at what you're doing to be more effective. And it's the more that I've done this, the more that I've experienced what really feels like a free download. Whether it's 3 o'clock in the morning, my wife's not here, so sometimes it's in the middle of a conversation with my wife. Sometimes it's, while I'm driving down the road. She's usually driving down the road and I'm in the passenger seat. She likes to drive. But it's all, for me, it's hard to turn that off. I don't know where the off switch is, but part of it is I've become addicted to it because it's so fun. Because the ideas are coming in all the time. I don't know where to put them, what to do with them. I'm just sketching them, holding the file. Someday I'll have time to build them. But going from a time where it was really hard to get ideas outside of my little ladderback chair realm to a time when ideas are just coming in from where, how, it doesn't matter. They're just coming in faster than I can capture them. And I've heard other people talk about that, but not woodworkers so much. I don't think that level of creativity is out of our reach. In fact, I think if we don't start practicing how to be more fluid, creative, and open-minded about our design potential and our designing, then we are going to be swallowed up by AI or somebody else's company that's really good at that, or be stuck making mid-century modern stuff. I don't have an attitude about mid-century modern stuff. But okay, I do. It's like the one most obvious thing right now that we are saying to ourselves as an industry is that was our golden era of furniture design. And the Danes owned it. So I'm not holding that. I think we really need to step it up. We've got the golden opportunity and it's right out there. I don't mean just go buy all those machines, but I don't think we have an excuse to not make this next era the golden era of design. It just, the potential is so exciting, and the tools are pretty exciting too. I need to really be careful about where I walk out there. The idea of a handmade object and the distinction of wanting to separate handmade versus machine made started a long time ago when the machine industry started taking over furniture making and all kinds of other crafts and putting out massive amounts of product, and a lot of it wasn't as good as the handmade stuff. We know that's not necessarily the case today. You know, that we were able to make, and I got really good at handwork. I was chopping mortises way past when I should have stopped. Not, you know, when my last days of chopping mortises by hand, I would chop 90 mortises in a day, and I could chop a finished mortise in 5 minutes. That's a long time for a CNC guy, but that was pretty good, and I had systems for doing that. And I could actually chop a mortise that would pop when you opened it up, and it was so fun. But it kind of doesn't matter because we've gone way past that mechanically. I think pretty much every shop, whatever size it is cutting their joinery with some kind of machine. I don't know of anybody that actually makes furniture by hand and that sells it. Yet, if you look at ads in any magazine, most furniture companies are still branding handmade. What bothers me about that is not the fact that they're lying about being handmade. I'm not offended because I really used to make stuff by hand. But that we are throwing away an opportunity to be truthful about branding the integrity of what we're doing now by feeling that we have to say this stuff is handmade in order to elevate it to the sense of integrity that the general public still holds for whatever reason about handmade. We're saying that mechanically made, machine made, this technology is inferior. Even though that's not really what, I don't think there's any question that we think that, but that branding of handmade to get integrity infused into our company's brand is not only screwing up the overall industry brand, I think it points to the fact that we haven't fully accepted what we're doing, or we're not proud of what we're doing, or that this isn't the best damn processing we've ever had in our history. And why wouldn't this be what we do? I was at a talk yesterday by a good friend of mine, Justin Stab, and he sent his representatives here to listen to my talk today as a fair game. But he was talking about having that be part of the showcase of what, put this technology up front, let people see it. It's cool stuff. It's not just cool stuff. If we know what our mission vision is, we've decided to go this technological route for a reason, and probably a good reason. So why wouldn't our customers love us for choosing the best technology for doing what we're doing and showing that that is part of our mission? That's who we are, and this is why we do that. And quit messing around with something that ain't happening. you know, there's a separate movement going on right now that has sort of perpetuated this beautiful magazine called Mortise and Tenon. How many people here know about Mortise and Tenon magazine? Gorgeous piece of publishing. The writing also in there is quite good. And there's validity to that, and I'm glad to see that, because I think that having that perspective alive and well in our culture, even though that's not the heart of manufacturing, I think there's a lot of wisdom to mine from our history that is at risk with the pace of technological change going on right now. And that's why I started out the way that I started out the way I did, to be honest with you, is I was broke. But that's why I stayed with that hand process as long as I did. I wanted to make sure that I evolved at a pace, or my processes evolved at a pace that was on par with my evolution, and that was evolving very slowly. So I think a lot of people could have gone through that a whole lot faster. But I think that our history has a lot to tell us about design, about process. I don't think we need to spend 30 years in that, but I'm really glad for the community of hand workers that are supporting Mortise and Tenon magazine and Fine Woodworking, Woodworker West, and others that keep the heart and soul of old ways alive, because I think it has a really good place in our culture. But in our industry, we don't have to lose the heart and soul. If we are really clear about why we're doing this, and we're achieving our mission clearly, I don't think it matters what's driving the cutting edge that's shaping the stuff that we're selling. I think it's in here, and I think it's in what we're bringing. If you'll bear with me, what we're allowing the universe to share through us to our clients. And if we hold that, regardless of whether where it's coming from, if we hold that we are not just manufacturers, but those of us who design are bringing in ideas that are looking for a carrier, that are looking for a midwife, that are looking for someone that it can trust to bring these ideas through without screwing them up, then we're doing well for our clients and our culture by being open to that and bringing that stuff in. I think the idea of with original designs, with teaching yourself, whether you're a designer of furniture or not, that same kind of creative energy, creative thinking, that happens in the machine room all the time, or needs to, because you're always having to fix something, solve a problem, and it doesn't matter what you're doing. That same kind of approach to listening for answers, listening for ideas, asking the universe to help you solve a problem, I think will really give you a leg up on getting stuff done, and fixing the machine, getting it back to work, or solving whatever problem it is. I've found that to work all the time. I think the rest of the discussion, the rest of the talk, I would really like to be a discussion, and I don't know if I've generated questions or just pissed you off or what I've done, but I would really like to hear from you guys. I've had some really interesting conversations just in lead up to this, because I'm not wearing it now, but I'm wearing my speaker badge. Oh, what are you speaking about? And but I've had some really good conversations, and one of them was last night at the bar, which isn't that a great place to talk to somebody? But did anyone have any questions or comments or complaints? So I could go on this for a long time, and I now wish I showed you pictures. I think I got past the points that I wanted to make, but I think that the key is that a lot of the ways that we think about design, about learning, about the integrity of our processes needs to change for our industry to start moving as fast as the technology that's coming into it. It seems like what happens, and it's really hard for it not to happen now. What happens whenever there's new technology brought into an industry is there's an infatuation or potentially intoxication with the technology itself. And that seems to drive our thinking. Oh, what else can we do with this? Oh, let's try that. And that's good play. But you know, it's wood turning is on my mind because we were just talking about that. But a lot of woodworking or wood turning, you know, there was a time in the 80s when there was just a real blossoming of the art of wood turning. But a lot of what I'm seeing now, and even then, was an infatuation with turning instead of the lathe being one tool to launch an idea or a design. Whether it's a bandsaw, and who is the guy, Ron, that did all the bandsaw boxes? The guy that wrote about, taught, and it was the first one back in the 80s that was doing that. Rose, that doesn't matter. But anyway, there was Art Carp. Oh, that's who it was? Oh, I thought I was thinking about it. That's the guy who followed him. But yeah, Art Carpenter was amazing, but he didn't get stuck in anything. He was. Do you all know who we're talking about? Art Carpenter. He was a phenomenally creative craftsman that I had the pleasure of hanging out with at his house in California. He didn't have limits. He had, I think he had that ability to bring stuff into the world that hadn't been here before. Where he was getting it from, I don't know. It maybe he and I were kin in this thinking, but he brought some stuff in, bandsaw boxes, which are a way of taking the one piece apart and putting it back together as boxes. It didn't last in terms of a style because it was sort of an era, but it was, I think, came out of an infatuation with the bandsaw. But it's really hard when you're learning about a new technology, or a new tool, regardless of what it is, to have that drive your innovation, drive your design work, drive your thinking. And for a little while, that's okay, but it's something that's important to really be aware of. And play with it for a while, but then look at, all right, why did you get this machine? How does it fit the why of why you're doing this, why you have this company, why you're making this furniture, cabinet making, or whatever it is, millwork. You know, if you don't know why you're doing that, knowing what machine to do or to buy is going to be a little bit tricky. What I did about every 10 years is I'd re-ask the question, you know, why am I doing this? And it was different every time. You know, when I got into it initially, I was realizing that I wasn't going to be making any money, but I dropped out of school. I sure wasn't making any money at school. I figured I'd do that bad teaching myself how to do woodworking. It's an easy thing. I use it teaching myself all the time because it's just a quick way of getting an idea across, but I try not to get in the trap of this, thinking about this inward experience of teaching myself. But anyway, initially I just wanted to get into woodworking, and then I hit a point, or get into chair making, and then I hit a point where, I'm making chairs now. What do I do with this thing? And I had the fortune of showing my first chair to somebody, and I've been filling orders ever since. So I didn't have a time when I was a hobbyist chair maker. I just dove right in. But my family wasn't getting any money. I was the sole breadwinner. My first son was born about the time that I started my chair making business. And I had to be really clear about why I was doing this, because I was keeping my family poor. After I got to a certain skill level, actually Fine Woodworking walked up to my door because my landlord was a famous woodworker who lived across the street, Rudy Asalnik. How many people here knew of Rudy Asalnik way back when? It's going to be all the gray-haired guys. But I started thinking then differently about, okay, now I can teach. But Fine Woodworking sort of put the pressure on, not because of what they said, but the fact that they were shining the light on what I was doing. And that really accelerated my thinking, but also accelerated my thinking about being sure why I was doing this. Because I was talking to a lot of people. Their readership would look at my articles, or soon after that I started teaching classes, and I had to be really clear to my students, well, why would you do this? Why do I do this? And that feeds what I decided to buy to support what I'm doing this. And that changed over the years until I think right now I'm in another really big questioning area. Why am I doing this? I'm 64 years old. I should know better, right? No, but seriously, at this point, it's my design sketchbook is getting pretty full, and we're not getting enough of them made. So my last effort is going to be getting my designs out there, and we'll be using technology to do that. We'll be using other hands to do that, possibly other shops to do that. But I'm really clear that my designs are not going to be all built if we're doing everything by hand or, with old technology. That's pretty much what I was going to cover. I can talk for a long time, but I'm really curious as to what you all think. Has anybody here done anything like that? Have you ever considered that you're being taught where you are in your shop rather than trying to figure things out? So this is, yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I really appreciate your bringing that perspective to your talk and sort of bringing it up, and I agree with you that it's a type of thinking that I don't think I hear from woodworkers very much. I'm a fan of Elizabeth Gilbert as well, and I think I might go to people like that to get this kind of concept. And sorry, you've brought up so many things that got my brain sort of going that I lost my train of thought there. I wanted to ask you kind of to respond to your question. I think yes, that really resonates with me, that idea, that feeling that design is coming externally. You mentioned that you have
May I have your attention, please?
Sorry.
We are excited to announce the attendee of the day, sponsored by Colonial. I'd now like to introduce Eric Delaney from Colonial Saw to present today's winner.
Congratulations to Kat Magana from the Swiner Tin Company. And for the rest of you attendees, before you leave today, make sure you stop by the Colonial Saw booth. We're located at booth 1922, and in our booth you'll see our new cordless lamello biscuit joiner, and as well, you can find out more about our free Street vertical panel saw giveaway. Thanks for your time and enjoy the rest of the show.
Did that blow it?
No, it's fine. You mentioned that you have these moments where the ideas are just coming in, and you said you'd be talking to your wife or sort of sounded like it would just be kind of at any given moment. And I'm curious if that is how it is for you, or if the ideas come through work, like through design, like when you're sketching or when you're actually sort of engaged? Do you, or do you, are you struck by random inspiration?
No, thank you. That's a great question. I guess everybody heard that because it's on a mic. But a lot of times, in fact, I almost never get like a whole picture downloaded in one shot. Oh, there it is. I'm going to make that now. I'm just not that good at it. I'll hear a piece of it, you know, or it's like a car driving by playing music. You know, you're not going to hear the whole song. You're, oh, what's? Mm-hmm. And so I'll try to sketch it. And sometimes what feels like is happening, I'll start sketching it, and I don't necessarily know what I'm going to be drawing. That's what it's a gesture drawing. It's not like I'm trying to draw a line. It's just moving lines, and a lot of times it feels like that process, which is still in listening mode, because I'm still trying to discover what's coming in. It will take more form. And then I have to really watch it, because what will happen sometimes is that sketch will turn into something that I thought about last year. And that's what I was talking about earlier, about not screwing the baby up with ego or thinking. This is just trying to catch it, just trying to get it sorted out. So the sketching is sort of it's like calling, you know, sort of like a duck call. You know, it's just a way of invoking more of the idea, and the challenge is to not push the lines from here. It's to just, it's not like a Ouija board or anything, but it is just like doodling almost. And the designs, those sketches wouldn't make sense to anybody because they don't necessarily look like anything. But it is really an important part of the listening process that's a little more, I don't know if it creates a pull or just helps me direct my attention differently. But I usually have to keep going back to that to finish, to hear the rest of it or get the rest of it. And a lot of, I would say 90% of those ideas have not hit the bench yet. They're still in sketchbooks.
I just want to ask you a follow-up question about this. If, when you're in these periods of time where ideas are coming so quickly that you can't keep up with them, or if you miss that opportunity to sketch, like, do you have any anxiety about like missing the opportunity to capture that, or do you think there's an actual risk of that, or do you believe that sort of the idea that you need to have will come back again if it's relevant?
I don't think about that. I don't know why I don't think about that. I should probably worry about that. But I think I should correct a misdirection I gave a little while ago about the pace of things coming in. I made it sound like it's really, really fast. It's really, really fast relative to our ability to actually get something made.
I mean, I guess I asked the question because I have that anxiety. Like, I feel like that situation occurs that I'm not keeping up with these ideas.
Well,
and I don't know whether to worry about it or just sort of let it go.
It doesn't matter. They're going to keep coming anyway. Yeah, sometimes, I mean, I have pieces of designs in my sketchbook that I'll just, in flipping through just for entertainment, I thought, what the fuck was that? What was that? You know, I don't always understand it, and sometimes I think it just helps the next thing to happen, whether it's like a lot of what happens to my designs they're not just in my sketchbook, they're filed away. And it's really helpful to have that I guess, library of bits and pieces of designs, even if they never got completed, because a client will come into my shop and want something that they haven't found or that we haven't made. And there's usually something in that library I can use to speed up a drawing while they're talking to me. And I cheat a little bit. Like when a customer comes in, usually they can't, almost never can they afford for me to start from scratch on a design and just make one. So I'll borrow from another one, and I'll also, because if it's already in my library, I've already thought about where that might fit in our portfolio. And so I try to design something that fits what this client is saying and fits our portfolio. That's screwing up the baby a little bit. But if I don't make a sale, it's not going to go anywhere. So it will also evolve. And sometimes I actually have to make a piece several times before I understand what it needs to be. But in terms of losing them, I don't know if it matters. We can only make so many pieces anyway, you know? So
Thank you for your talking. Sorry about that. Thinking about the studio design movement of the 1970s, is there any corollary between the practitioners of that, Malouf, Krebnoff, you know, there's many, in the way you're thinking today? Do you think you could go back and look at that culture and kind of see if there's similarities in what you're proposing to those thinkers?
It's really funny you should just now bring that up, because Ron Goldman's sitting right back there, and we were just talking about that body of Craftsman, and you know, they were, a lot of them were in their 70s and 80s when I was getting started, and so I just caught the tail end of that, and thanks to a conference, the Southern California Woodworking Conference in '88 and an attempt of it in '89, I actually got introduced to a lot of those people, and it was incredible. You know, it was to see them, to see their work in person, to sit in the Malouf chair when I was 23 or something, was very influential. But I you know, looking back at Malouf's work, and I love, he was a good friend of mine and a customer, and I've stayed at his house, and it was just, you know, I know the guy, but I look at his work, and it looks a lot like Danish modern stuff that was right before him. I don't think he had a really fine sculptural sense that he added to it, but I think he was part of that movement, not something brand new. Jerry Osgood brought some brand new stuff onto the scene, and I don't know. I suspect. I've heard him talk about his work, and he was teaching at St. Peter's or Peters Valley craft school or something in New Jersey when I was there, and I got to hear him talk, and he definitely thinks different than your average craftsman. He just had a wild and creative energy. I think he was so far into that. Yes, he definitely was one. I don't think there's another one that stands out. You know, Art Carpenter was as well. I was thinking about Gary. Gary thumbed his nose at the art world, and that was what his work was about. Is just, he made some amazing stuff, very flamboyantly decorative, and he was an extremely creative person. And he got so good at just being the wild guy, personally and artistically. I think he was another one that embodied that. And his stuff would initially play on something done before. But when I look at all the pieces I've seen of his, I think he was probably one that was there. Even though it started out about the nail in the piece of furniture. I don't know if you all know, who does not know who Gary Knox Bennett is? All right, well this is worth a story. He was a fine furniture maker, I guess, when in the 70s?
Well, he began making dope pipes.
Well, yeah, but he made his money from the dope industry. I know that, but his furniture making was sponsored by his other endeavors, but one of the things that made him famous is he got into a heated discussion about somebody who was complaining about a very unimportant issue with one of his cabinets, and he got so mad. He said, "That's not what you want to look at. Here's what you want to look at." And he drove a 16-penny nail into the door of this beautiful Padua cabinet, and from then on, it was pretty much to the art world, and that's what fired him up and got his creativity. But I think his prior endeavors did a lot to support his creativity as well. It wasn't just dope pipes. It was.
Well, he made his money because he was doing the metal
Rose clips to.
But he had the company making the metal coverings. That's where his main income came from.
I repaired a table of his that was at a gallery in Asheville, and spent a lot of time on it, and they appreciated so much what I had done. His wife Sylvia sent me one of his a sculpture that he had done as part of his 80th birthday celebration. I don't know if you were there, but he had all these rose clip sculptures, and one hadn't found a home yet, so they sent it to me. It was a dung beetle about, the sculpture plaque was about this big, and this dung beetle rolling up a dung, and the pinchers or the antenna of the beetle was the roach clip. So it's just like every time I see that, I just smile. And that kind of thing it had to be from there. It had to, there's nothing like that, I have to tell you another side. I'm from Asheville. It's very creative there, and one of our mottos, or at least it was, is keep Asheville weird. I know Austin did that and other cities. Let's just keep this place a little bit weird. I was driving home one day after work, and this weird thing was going down the road, and I had to look. I got a little closer, and it was a man dressed up as a dinosaur, and he was riding his riding lawnmower, which he had sculpted. He had put foam sculpture, and it was a really good likeness of a triceratops. So here's this dinosaur going down the road on his triceratops, and I'm thinking, have I dreamed this? No, I just live in Asheville. But, that kind of thing and the roach clip, that just are creative endeavors to delight us. There was no reason to, on a summer day, to dress like a dinosaur and turn your lawnmower into a triceratops. But it's just the creative play, and it really, every time I think about that or see, Gary Bennett's little roach clip, I don't smoke dope, but it's like, that's awesome. And I think whether we do that with our CNC machines and have play, I don't know if it matters. I think it is important to have a little bit of fun with your work, but I'm glad you brought that example up, and I don't see that happening so much right now, although who was the turner, Michael, that made the aliens and stuff? I've seen it really colorful, exotic wood creatures. You know who I'm talking about?
Michael Hoselek?
No. Anyway, there have been a few, but I don't see that happening much anymore. And I don't know if it's I've quit looking, or if there's less of it going on, or maybe woodworkers just don't smoke as much dope as they used to. I don't know, but I think we have an opportunity now to really have some fun and be super creative. And I think if we don't seize that and find a way to do it, we're going to be in trouble. Yeah.
Wait, quick.
The mic, where'd the mic go?
Brian, let me just. How did you get from making Appalachian chairs to what you're doing now? I mean, totally different.
It is. You have a question? That's a long one. Do you have a question? I'll get right back to that because that's.
I don't know if mine's a short one, but so real quick, I'm a retired woodshop teacher, and I'm now building a small shop for myself. Put everything I have in it. You know, my kids have no inheritance except that wood shop. But anyway, I've always wanted to. The reason I'm here is because you're a chair builder, and I've always wanted to be a chair builder. I've made 11 Windsor chairs, but every one of them were under the tutelage of a Windsor chair maker, Jock Jones, Spring City, Utah. Anyway, so I've always wanted to make a Duncan Fife-esque chair, and I have all these thoughts and ideas that my grandmother had a chair. It wasn't a true, real Duncan Fife. It was a remake of a Duncan Fife that fell apart because the joinery was only dowels. And anyway, probably it's just a pipe dream, but I wanted to be able to recreate that Duncan Fife chair, but I wanted to be able to do it such that I could do it. I guess what I'm asking is if this is possible, or it's just a pipe dream. But could I do it and make it cheap enough that the average person maybe could save up for a while and they could buy a set of 6 chairs for, $300 a chair? Or is that just too little money?
$300 a chair. Who's going to make it?
I'm going to make it.
No, forget it.
Forget it.
No.
No way.
No, you could. Do you have a CNC machine?
I do.
What is it?
It's a legacy machine like they got over here. It has a 4-axis, well, actually a 5-axis.
Laguna?
No, a legacy. They're made right here in Utah. They have a spindle turning.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking legacy was in the Laguna group. It's not.
No, it's not.
Okay.
But at any rate, anyway, I've always wanted to make chairs, but specifically that one. But anyway, so
manufacturing is a whole different thing, and whether you can do it or not, I really don't know. But I think it's very unlikely for a really small shop to do that. You have to be set up to move a lot of material.
Yeah.
And that's been we can't do anything like that. We've got a 10,000 square foot shop, and myself and 4 other guys building in there. One of them's a finisher, but
yeah.
We couldn't even do it when we had a 35-foot long CNC machine in there. And it's just because the infrastructure required for it has to be in a very different scale. If you want to go low end, you've got to spend a lot of money tooling up to get the speed. It doesn't matter what the design is. You won't be able to move material fast enough.
Yeah.
I don't think.
That's what I've been trying to think of is you talk about that creativity, and I think of that a lot, because I know what you're saying is that I think of the joinery that would be involved, and it would have to be very, very simple, but a Duncan Fife chair is not very simple, and it would have to be sturdy. A chair
Why
has to be
would you
sturdy.
want to do that? Why would you want to take that chair and make it sell for $350 retail?
Well, I would like to be able to, make it so that, people could afford it. Somebody
I
would
know,
want
but
it.
why?
I don't know.
That's got to be really clear because you're up for an investment.
Yeah.
And if you know why, where to spend the money will be a lot easier to figure out.
Uh-huh.
But if you
Well,
don't know
I have
why, it's going to
you
be
know,
tough.
over the years, I've spent, I literally have spent $50,000 on tools. They're all used. They're all good quality. You know, I have 3-phase in my small shop, and so I have some good stuff. You know, but you know, if I had to go out and buy it brand new, I had to do this for an insurance. You know, I have over $150,000 worth of tools.
The question you ask is easy to answer, and I think it's a no. To hit that goal, you might want to redesign that in a way that a manufacturer can hit those numbers, but I don't think you'll do that in this country. I really don't.
So if I were to raise
the
the price,
answer to your question, Ron, is how did I get from there to where I am now? It was one chair at a time. You're seeing it from a distance over a long period of time, and it looks like a leap. It wasn't a leap. The redesign of the Chio chair alone took 24 months of attention. So it's not only been slow, it's been really difficult. It's not so slow now. Things are speeding up because I'm getting faster at design, this because of what I was just talking about. But that shift was the reason that the Chio took me 24 months is I made a huge leap within that single design that put me in a different position mentally and in a different position from a skill set standpoint. And I've got some new tricks now that I lean on that are really speeding up my ability to be a designer or to bring new things in. We're well into the extra credit zone, so thanks y'all for hanging out. I guess I'm done. Here she is. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. That was truly a wealth of information. We're so lucky to have him. And I know I'm supposed to say the coolest part of the trade show is all this stuff, but I think it's really, there's a lot of really smart people here. I'm fortunate to know, people in the audience. So I hope that you're meeting at least 2 new people every day, and I hope that you're having meaningful conversations, because I know that a lot of you are very shy, and I know that you stay in your shops or your companies and stuff, and you don't get out much. And so this is your opportunity to make new friends and learn new things. And so we're super lucky to have Brian, and I'm so glad that you are here with us today. And so come back tomorrow at 9:30. We're going to have software presentations in the morning, and then we'll have an economic update with Dr. Keel at noon, and a discussion about our supply chain right after that. And then the Freshwood Award ceremony for students is going to be at 4 p.m. tomorrow. So thank you all. Have a great night.